Come on. There we go. It's Monday, and as always, we are back. Another episode of Prospects of the Land. A pretty mixed bag of emotions for this episode. You know, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. We'll dive right into that. But as always, Ted McCulley with my co-host, Nate Bope. Nate, how we doing today?
Have we ever told him the story about that song? Because we talked about it off air once, but our little intro song, I don't think we've talked about it on air, but it's your story to tell.
Yeah, intro song is actually one of my dad's old songs, a band he used to have called Jameer back in the day, and that's where that's kind of from. It's a great song. Obviously, we don't have to worry about copyright issues, so that's the story behind that.
Good. It's honestly, the song gets better every time I listen to it, so that's just my thing. No, we're doing well. We actually have been watching a lot of college baseball. Have you been delving into the regionals yet? I know you've been busy. So
yeah, I think we talked about the end of last show. I just can't get myself into college baseball.
Do you ever watch the College World Series? You better.
I don't.
Really?
Yeah.
No?
Strictly pro for me.
Well, college baseball fanatics out there, I got you. So Arizona is back in Omaha. Louisville is in Omaha. The Hogs, Woo Pig, Arkansas is there. So is UCLA, LSU, Oregon State, I believe. Yep, Coastal Carolina is there as well. And then tonight, the winner of Duke and Murray State. If you want my pick for who I think is going to win it, probably one of the SEC teams in Arkansas and LSU. Those two teams are just wildly talented. I thought it was going to be North Carolina, and then they kind of crapped the bed against Arizona. But Arizona's a really good team. They can give them a run. Who I will be rooting for, though, is Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers won it in 2016. I've been on their football field. I have been physically on their baseball field right next to the padding on the wall where it says College World Series champs. I'll root for the Chants, but I think it's probably going to be the Hogs or the Bayou Bengals that end up taking that one. But that starts on Friday, June 13th. So, hey, big week for the affiliates, but also if you like baseball, tune into the College World Series. It's always a lot of fun. Again, living in Omaha, I always used to go. So I definitely recommend tuning into that. It is a ton of fun. And again, you get to see, while again, you're focusing on the next stars of the Guardians, here on this show, you get to see the next stars of baseball, period, when you watch the College World Series. And some of those guys, you know, they can get lost in translation a bit from their draft until they make their major league debut, but they are some fun games and some fun players to watch, quite frankly. Taven, as you mentioned, it's a pretty, up and down week. It's pretty we got some really exciting things to talk about. We got some not so exciting things to talk about. But the first thing that we have to talk about is the Lynchburg Hellcats. Don't worry, we're going to be circling back around to them. But if you are new to the show, we dive into results from all four minor league affiliates, all four major minor league affiliates, the little oxymoron there. We go from bottom up. So we start with Lynchburg, move on to Lake County, into Akron, and round it out with Columbus. So, Taven, when you talk about Lynchburg, first of all, huge series coming up this week, but we'll preview that here in a minute. Taven, the Hellcats were able to take 4 of 6 in a very, very big week leading up to the big series. What are your takeaways from Lynchburg? Played very well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, biggest takeaways was you go on the road and you knew you had to at least win the series, and that's exactly what they did. You take 4-6 against the Salem team they've shown ton of bright spots this season. And obviously you go into their territory, it did a great job. I mean, the bats were really rolling. 10-5 win, 6-5 win, 8-5 win. And then you get a 2-1 win. So even the pitching was on, certain parts of the series. Carolina, they had a down week. Like you mentioned, we're really going to dive into that, but you took advantage of that. You made up 2 games in the standings. You go from 3 back to now 1 back, and you got 2 weeks left in the first half of the season. One of which, again, we're going to dive into it against that Carolina team that you're only a game back of. So
it's
you just
by far and away.
Sorry, yeah.
My second monitor keeps coming unplugged. It keeps screwing around with me. No, it is by far and away the most important series that any minor league affiliate will have had so far. It is just the truth. It is by far and away the most important. A 3-8 loss to open the series on Tuesday, but they bounce back with that 2-1 win. You lose on Thursday, 7-6. Pretty late game scenario stuff too. If I do remember correctly, yeah, they ended up getting walked off. Tie game in the bottom of the 9th, they get walked off there. So, again, not really what you're looking for, but then they turn around. They win the final 3 games of the series, 8-5, 10-5, 6-5. That 6-5 win, I think Salem was up 5-0, and then Lynchburg. Oh no, I must be thinking about a different affiliate or a different game I was watching, something of the like. Lynchburg was up 3-0 after the top of the first. Salem came back to take the lead. 3 runs on the top of the 9th from Lynchburg was able to seal it there to secure the series win against Salem. And that proves, Taven, to be a very, very big win, as we'll discuss later. But we got to talk about one guy in particular on the bat side. I sent you the stats earlier today, and I want you to read them off after I read off what he did this week. We talk about how the Stars have been needing to step up around Lynchburg, and one of those was Welbin Francisca. Well, he's been doing exactly that. This series, 9 of 21, 6 runs scored, had 4 doubles, 3 RBIs. Walk to strikeout ratio looks good. Stole 3 bases. His slash line, a 429 average, had a 619 slugging with a 500 on base percentage and a 1.119 OPS. But Taven, it wasn't just this week. I think his past 18 games have been very similar.
Yeah, Welbin Francisca officially batting .413, 31 for 75 since May 16th. The dude has been on an absolute tear his last 75 at-bats. Just amazing. And that's exactly what you need out of this Lynchburg team as a whole, but especially him to, just lean on a guy like that just going down the stretch.
Well, you know who else we're going to talk about had a very good week? It's our good guy, Tommy Hawk. 8 of 19, 7 runs, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, hit .421, had an OPS above 1 dot, but the stat that we always care about, flash it up there, Taven. Boom! Stole 6 bases this week. He still leads all of minor leagues, and now he has eclipsed the 50 mark before the end of the first half. With 2 more series to go, which Taven means I'm very confident in his ability to get to 60 before the end of the first half. But I am also very confident that he can steal 100 bases on the season, knock on wood, if he stays healthy.
Yeah. 100%.
Which has not been a problem for him in his career.
Yeah, I think 100 is not going to be a problem. Obviously, you said if he stays healthy, that's going to be the biggest factor in this. A lot of injuries happening with the club. We'll get to that later on in the show. But, yeah, it's going to be that. And I think a big factor is also we know he's going to get to Lake County this year. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. It's just when is it going to happen, and will he be able to translate? For sure, he'll be able to carry what he's done into Lake County, but the question's going to be, can he keep it at the level that he's doing this at?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have no home run hitters for Lynchburg this week, which is unfortunate. But, I mean, Taven, that, again, just goes to show what kind of baseball this team plays and how they can win games. Again, they they run the bases really, really well. Again, Tommy Hawk with 6, Welbin Francisco with 3. He's actually second in the Guardians organization in terms of stolen bases, I think now with 23, 26, somewhere around that number. But even Ryan Cesarini stole a couple bases this week. Not too bad with the bat himself. Nick Mitchell, welcome back, played all 6 games this past series, hit .250, stole a couple of bags. And then you have some stolen bases scattered about between the rest of the roster there as well. Taven, this is the team that I don't necessarily want to call it small ball because it's not a lot of bunting guys over and things of that nature. They just know how to hit the baseball really well. And while a lot of these guys can flash the power from time to time, this is just a club that simply plays baseball and does the little things the right way. And that's why they're being so successful this year. And yeah, they're getting a lot of big pieces back there as well. And again, we'll talk about injuries a little bit later. Some slow weeks from a couple of guys, but overall, hats off to Lynchburg this year. And now you get a chance to do something really huge this week.
Yeah, like you said, this team just plays good together. I mean, there's not really that big star name. Like, Akron, they had Bazana. Lake County, they have Ralphie Velasquez. When you go to Lynchburg, they don't have that big prospect that pops out in, the top 5 or top really 10 that just makes a big splash. I mean, they all contribute, they all put their part into it. And I think that's, a huge part of just what they've been able to do and why they're, just sitting a game out, just going down the stretch.
And I'll counter that by saying they do have that guy. It's Welbin Francisca, but it hasn't really felt like they've had that guy until this past 3 weeks have come around and Francisca's starting to hit really, really well. It was double bump week for Braylon Doty. He did okay. Again, really struggled. Gave up 13 hits, but only allowed 4 runs. A mixed bag for Braylon Doty. Jervis Alfaro was pretty good in his start. Melquise Hernandez was okay in his start. Some of the numbers look a little bit better than the actual stat line does. However, Rafe Schlesinger, Taven, this is the guy that we've been saying needs to really pick it up. Got a start this week, again, with Jogly Garcia being on the IL, and his ERA is a flat 0. 1 run did score during his 4 2/3 inning, but it was unearned. Allowed opponents to only hit .111. His whip a .64. 4 strikeouts to 1 walk. Only allowed 2 hits. So he really started to get things together. It was an up and down week for the bullpen. However, Connor Whitaker out of the pen, 5 innings in 2 games. Didn't allow a single thing. So good stuff out of him. Again, up and down week overall for the Hillcat bullpen and the starters, but the bats got it done.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, going down the stretch, the bats have to stay hot, obviously. Pitching has to stay good. Doty's finding a little bit of, just kind of getting it going. You'd like to see more out of that. Jogly Garcia probably not going to be back for this series, so really going to have to, depend on that pitching staff, and they really have to step it up in a big way against a Carolina team that can really hit the baseball. So I think that's going to be the biggest factor.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about that series a little bit later, but we'll put Lynchburg to the side for right now. Keep them in your mind. We'll be back to the Hillcats, but let's move on here to the Lake County Captains. David, we said it has been a struggle for this team, but now, and we thought that struggle would continue. You're going on the road to play the best team in the Midwest League. Ouch. They took 4 of 6, and it was because, Taven, I feel like we have to find a new key to this team in Lake County, and I think they have to be Lake County, because look at what they did this week as far as home run hitters. We have to start with the guy, flash up the graphic, because Jonah Advincula was a machine this week. He was an absolute machine. Now, again, there you just see all players of the week in the high A department. Jonah Advincula's name is right there. We do not have the graphic up for his stat line, but Taven, he was an absolute machine this week. 9 of 15 in 5 games played, drew 4 walks, came around to score 6 runs, including 1 triple and 3 home runs. Led the club with 5 RBIs this week, as well as 3 stolen bases. This is an unbelievable slash line over 5 games. 600 average, 684 on base percentage, 1.333 repeating slugging, and a 2.017 OPS for the series against West Michigan. That's incredible. Absolutely deserving of player of the week. And if 1, he keeps this up, could be player of the month. Just saying.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, I've been saying it, I think, since the beginning of this, the season. I said, Lake County, they really got to find somebody to step up. And I've been chirping Advincula's name. I mean, we saw what he did in the postseason at the end of last year. Dude stepped up in a huge way. And I knew, we all kind of saw that potential. Started out kind of hot, then faded a little bit. But I mean, the series against West Michigan absolutely exploded. And I think that's one of the more impressive things. Like, Lake County, they've struggled against the teams like Dayton that have been around there, kind of below them in the division. and then they go out there and do this against a West Michigan team. I mean, we all know
probably
that
going to win the Midwest League this year.
Yeah, they probably will, and definitely the first half. And everybody's kind of saying, all right. I mean, I think everybody's kind of thinking, what we are. Lake County's out of the first half, and we're kind of focusing on the second half. That's exactly what they need in the direction they need to go. Advicula needs to get hot, and just they need to beat up on these teams, and that's exactly what they're doing, and building that momentum into that second half, and really just establishing, I would say, kind of new stars, and one of which being Advicula.
There's some other good performances this week. We have 5 other players that hit home runs this week, 1 each from Mate Collado, Esteban Gonzalez, Alfonso Rosario, Johnny Tincher, the backup catcher. Hello. And then Ralphie Velasquez did go yard as well. It was a good week for Ralphie, one of the top prospects in the organization. 7 of 23, came around to score 3 runs. On top of his home run, had 2 triples this week as well for Ralphie Velasquez. Again, 4 RBIs, 2 walks. He hit 304, OPS of 979. But you also have to tip your hat to Esteban Gonzalez, who went 6 of 13 across only 3 games played, but his impact was felt greatly. 462 average, 1.231 OPS. The on-base number is the same as the average, and the slugging number looks great. He did have a double in there as well. Again, Taven, I feel like this is a team. We'll talk about the pitching staff in a minute because, again, it was fairly solid. You only allow more than 5 runs twice. In fact, every time you did allow 5 runs, you lost that game. So kind of going back to a conversation we had in early to mid-May about, how this pitching staff needs to perform. But as far as the bats go, it was another slow week for Christian Knapczyk. Jose Devers was not all there. You do get Jason Churio back off the IL. He only played 2 games, so you can't draw much from that. Jacob Kozart did only play 2 games for them. And then the batting averages across the board, for the most part, just don't necessarily look that great. But when you have a guy like Advicula, you have a guy like Gonzalez that had really, really impressive weeks, same with Ralphie Velasquez, it was enough to win this series. To a point that you've been saying literally all season long. Some other guys have got to step up. I think Knapczyk at least has got to get back to what he was doing. It was the second straight week hitting below 100. So he's got to refine that groove that he was in, as well as some of these other players. Now we need to see that consistency, right? But I think in order for this team to win, I think the pitching staff is the key for this team. But when the pitching staff struggles, Lake County has to show up.
Yeah, exactly like you said. I mean, the pitching staff, it's really been up and down this season, and a big part of that's your ace just has not been consistent. We'll get to it in a minute, but Matt Wilkinson struggled yet again this week. Didn't even get out of the first inning.
Wow.
But I mean, that's a big factor to this team and what they have to do. I mean, Benjamin, he stepped up in a big way. Kyle Dernetti, he had a huge hit, over the weekend. Collado, he stepped up. So just guys like that, Rivas just getting a base hit when it matters. I want to say Saturday or whatever. It came down to the wire, right. Maybe Sunday, actually, I think it was both the games. But again, I mean, it just comes down to those role players. Maybe not your stars, your Churios, obviously Velasquez. When those guys are struggling, these guys have to step up. I mean, I've been saying it kind of all year, and that's what they've been doing. I think Advicula, he played a huge role in that this week. Knapczyk goes down, he struggles. Guy steps up like Jonah Advicula. So I just think that's what this Lake County team just really needs to hone in and just be able to do those small things like that. And
absolutely,
at the end of the day, just come up with the wins.
The key for this team to me, Taven, though, is still the pitching staff, and is because of the fact that when you look back to even April, but in May and in June, when this pitching staff is on and they allow 4 runs or less, they are a really, really hard team to beat. It's because of what the offense can do. They can put the game out of length's reach if the pitching staff is on. And even if the pitching staff isn't on, the offense is good enough to run away with things. Now, this week, the offense did not explode, but again, it did enough to be able to secure some wins. They followed the same pattern as Lynchburg. They lost Tuesday and Thursday, again, 9-2 and 5-4. They didn't allow more than 5 runs the rest of the series. 4-1 win on Wednesday, 3-0 win on Friday, 6-1 win Saturday, and a 6-4 win on Sunday. Dylan DeLucia, nothing in 5 innings. Caden Favors, nothing in 5 innings. Yorman Gomez, He struggled a little bit here and there. Overall, he got 5 in the third innings, which at the minor league level, you'll take. Josh Hartle, he went 6 innings, nothing from him. Jackson Humphreys in 4 in the third, only 1 run. Again, Taven, it was kind of like you said. Right now, they're going with a 6-man rotation, and it's because of the struggles of what Matt Wilkinson is doing. I mean, the stat line is just not great. The ERA checks out at a 40.5 for the one game, but you can probably tell me what his ERA is on the season. I'd have to push some buttons to do that. This week, his one start was awful. I mean, purely awful.
Yeah.
2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, 3 walks, and didn't even allow a home run, didn't hit a guy, didn't strike anybody out. The whip was a 9, which is ungodly bad. 750 average. What's going on with Matt Wilkinson?
I mean, like you said, 5.36 ERA on the season, a 1-6 record, not great. I mean, even the innings, 40.1, like he's just not getting the innings that he probably should in 11 games. The whip 1.64. The only kind of bright side I can see is 45 strikeouts through the 40 innings. But again, you put all the runs up, he's just been struggling. I mean, he's had a few starts here and there where you're like, all right, this is kind of the Matt Wilkinson we saw last year, kinds of shades of that. But again, he just has been nowhere near consistent this season, and it's just he just hasn't been pitching great, at the high A level, which is strange because last year he figured it out toward the end of the season. So
right, yeah, and this is the bullpen that did help pick up the slack here and there. Like Robert Wiegelnick did have 5 2/3 innings, did allow a couple of runs, the ERAs in the 3, but had a team high in strikeouts this week with 9. Even though the in-depth numbers don't look too good, you'll take that amount of innings, only allowing 2 runs for a guy that's been up and down this year. Good. Adam Tulloch, much like a lot of the starters, he allowed nothing in 2 games, 5 innings. Kyle Scott in 1 game out of the pen, 3 1/3, didn't allow a thing there. Jack Josiak was good, and then it was a very mixed bag. Otherwise, again, Josh Harlow really struggled. Alonzo Richardson struggled. Jay Driver, the ERA's at a 9, but 1 inning allowed 1 run. Again, you'll take that. But Jack Josiak did have 2 save opportunities, won all of them. In fact, every game here, I believe there was a save opportunity. Wiegelnick got his, Tulloch got his. So, again, some really good stuff out of the pitching staff this week. So, hey.
Yeah, and I mean, I got one more thing before we kind of move on to Akron. I mean, big week, and I would go far to say my favorite manager in our minor league affiliate system. Omir Santos is now the all-time franchise winningest manager for the Lake County Captains with 171 wins, and he got that on Sunday with the win over West Michigan. Gotta love that.
Yeah, wow. And that's huge for him. I mean, Omir Santos, you hear no bad things about this guy. He runs a hell of a baseball team, even though they've struggled this year. That's just because there's some players not performing. And while, again, Santos would tell you some of that blame has to fall back on him, he does an absolutely phenomenal job. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about this record if he didn't. So hats off to you, Omir Santos. You have done a phenomenal job. And honestly, now with that record, maybe he'll stay with the Captains for a little bit longer. I'd like to see him coach some higher levels of baseball and see what he can do.
So me personally, I think that's, what's going to happen. It might not be next year, but saw the same thing with Rugi in Akron when he got the all-time winningest record. He's been my favorite manager, I would say, in Cleveland history. Just minor leagues. I mean, I absolutely love Rugi. And now he's, we see what he's doing at the big league club,
coach,
infield coach and third base coach. So gotta love to see that. And I think we could see our Omir Santos, maybe not in Cleveland, but definitely, the Columbus realm and, somewhere, a place like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. It's really weird to talk about an affiliate that has a down week and it being Akron. So Erie and Akron finally do something different this week, but it was not to the liking of the Akron Rubber Ducks. They only take 2 of 5. Sunday's game was rained out and it will not be made up. So here you can see the standings board. Again, Erie has taken first place, and Taven, with the schedule and everything setting up, it really is not looking great for Akron to make a comeback. Who knows, though? Erie could have a bad week. This is baseball after all. Funky things can happen. But this is just not what you wanted to see from the Rubber Ducks overall as a team. They did have some good news, though. Angel Yanao did come back, was 0 for 4 in one game played. You can't draw too many conclusions, but you finally do see him on the baseball field. I think that's going to give Akron a massive lift. Do have some home run hitters to talk about. Cooper Ingle, Joe Lampe, and Guy Lipscomb all went yard, and they all had pretty good weeks in and of themselves. All of them each had 4 hits, all of them with batting averages right around the 280s to low 300s. Jorge Burgos, though, struggled. Dion Frias, a guy that we've seen really pick up the slack with the bat this year, struggled. Jake Fox only had 1 hit in 16 at-bats. Alex Mooney, he didn't do everything. Khalil Watson, the week was solid, but led the club with 7 strikeouts this week. The team did not run the bases well. They actually had more caught stealings than stolen bases, which is a little odd from Akron. So even though there were some good individual weeks, Taven, quite simply, too many guys struggled. You can't pick up the slack.
Right, in a week that you really needed to get. I mean, you only played 5 games. I did see that game against Chesapeake, due to the teams not meeting again in the first half, that game's just going to be canceled, not made up. So now you're a game and a half back. So in a way, with the way you were playing over the weekend, it was, maybe kind of a blessing in disguise. I mean, now you're not 2 out, you're a game and a half out. So now with that half game, things are going to get interesting, and it normally does down the stretch. When things are even, it's kind of like, all right, we need to win 2. Then it's a lot different to map out now. And saying what I think you were going to say, the half game is interesting now because in order for Akron to win the first half, they had to finish a game above Erie. All you need is that extra half game. Exactly. And I think that's, that was going to be my next point, is even if you were tied with Erie, you had to be a game above them. And now you're able to just be a half a game above them, which I think is huge. But again, down the stretch, Erie's going to have a little bit of a easier road to the playoffs. Again, a game and a half out. So you're going to need to go at 2 games over them to get that half game lead. Is it doable? I think 100% yes, but you cannot play the way that you did against Chesapeake.
No, absolutely not. And it wasn't to the fault of the pitching staff. They allowed 3 runs on Tuesday. They got the win. A 4-2 loss on Wednesday, another 4-2 loss Saturday, and a 2-0 loss on Friday. The thing that we've seen plague Akron in the past showed up this week, and there were just moments and weeks and games where they cannot hit. This overall felt like a week where Akron couldn't hit. Even in some of their wins, like there were a lot of big spots on Tuesday and a lot of big spots on Thursday, a game that I was at, where they just didn't deliver as much as they could have, which is a problem. But again, the pitching staff this week, Taven, might I say, overall, phenomenal. This is probably the best I've seen a pitching staff pitch as an entire unit in an affiliate this year. Maybe you could argue some of the leaks that Lake County had, but Austin Peterson only gave up 1 run in his start. Carter Spivey only gave up 1 run in his start. Both of those guys went 6. Trenton Denholm, he went 6, gave up 2 runs. It proved to be a loss, but it was still a really good day for him. Even the numbers look good. I'll give some more context here in just 1 second. Rodney Boone in 5 innings and a start allowed nothing. Tommy Mace in 5 innings and a start. He allowed 2. Again, he's continued to be so. But Taven, no pitcher this week, starter or any guy out of the bullpen. There are a ton of zeros across the board, a ton of 1s and 2s, but no one had a whip higher than 1.5, and no one had a batting average to opposing players higher than 250. That's a really good week.
Yeah. 100%. Like you said, I mean, I think the biggest part was obviously the pitching staff. I mean, your boy Austin Peterson was on absolute fire when you were up there.
What else is new?
Yeah. But I mean, that was the biggest part of, why they pulled out 2 of those wins. I think the bats were hot, especially on, Tuesday in that opener. Can we talk about Cooper Ingle, though, on Tuesday? 4 for 4.
Legacy
3 runs across the plate, 2 RBIs, a home run. Absolutely on fire. He's been, in my opinion, the MVP of this Akron team all year. And obviously K-Fish for people, saying, but he hasn't been there as long.
Yeah. And those 4 hits, too. I talk about Cooper Ingle having a really impressive week. He kind of had an impressive game and then didn't really do much else. That was the game where Cooper Ingle got all 4 hits this week. Lampe and Lipscomb kind of spread it out throughout the week. But Cooper Ingle, as you said, was masterful on Tuesday. Just not enough guys stepped up to the plate, literally and figuratively, for Akron. Pitching, there are still a lot of things that some guys want to individually improve, but when your pitching staff has a whip individually no higher than 1.5 and a batting average not higher than 250, look, man, that's a really good week.
Yeah, and I mean, I really the pitching staff has just been on fire. I think the bullpen has, done their thing as well. It's just, can those bats just stay consistent and just get hot at the end? You got 2 weeks left. I think Ingle has slid into that leadoff role and has been just incredible. Just starting off the order, but it's the guys that follow after. I think Khalil Watson, we're going to need to see a huge 2 weeks out of him. I think Lipscomb, Lampy, they just guys got to get on. I think Hanau come back. He's just going to contribute in a big way, and I think that's exactly what they need, is that bat, especially that middle infield bat with the struggles of Mooney that we've seen, and guys like that just come in and just really take things over. So you still got hope. You're a game and a half out. You're right in this thing still. Obviously, you'd like to be tied at the end of this week as well, but maybe that half game comes in handy or something of that nature. So we'll see.
Jake Miller continues to be a stud too, by the way. 2 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts and 6 outs recorded. Good for him, man. Lots of zeros across the pen. Tyler Thornton, Zane Morehouse, Zach Jacobs, Eric Sabrowski, who's on rehab assignment right now. He's still pitching really well. So, yeah, there are a ton of guys in that pitching lineup to be excited about. Bats just need to come around. We'll run through Columbus here. As they, I believe, also took 4 of 6.
Yep.
Yeah, they did. They took 4 of 6 against Toledo. Again, we were pretty worried here. Columbus had not been playing well. And again, now Columbus started to build some momentum. So 6-1 win Tuesday, 5-2 win Wednesday, 3-2 win Thursday. They already secured the series split. Then an 8-3 loss Friday. You flush it. You come back and win Saturday 2-1 before you lose an offensive just shootout 11-9 on Sunday. So you already had the series won by Saturday, which is really good. And Brian Rocchio, man, he continues to hit at the AAA level. He had 2 home runs this past. There are a ton of homers this past week, but Brian Rocchio, 2 home runs. Jonathan Rodriguez, who just got the call up to the majors, talk about that later. 2 home runs. Milan Tolentino, 2 home runs. Yordis Valdez, 2 home runs. We'll flash up the Valdez graphic in a minute, but Jake Anchia, Kyle Datris with his first AAA home run ever, and then, of course, CJ Kafis going yard as well, even though it was a slow week for Kafis, still hit really well. But again, this is a big week for a lot of guys. Johnny Rodriguez, before getting called up to the majors, was having an impressive week. Brian Rocchio continues to do very impressive things with the bat, not so much in the field, a conversation we're going to dive on into later. Kafis, it was a slow week, but still got that home run over the fence and had a triple in his 4 hits as well. Milan Tolentino, obviously, with 2 homers, but the guy we got to talk about, you can flash up the graphic, is Yordis Valdez. Again, as I said, 2 home runs. He was the Clippers player of the week. Yep. If you don't follow the Clippers on social media, first off, what do you do? And you should. Secondly, they put out a pitcher and hitter of the week. Valdez was the obvious choice for hitter of the week. Of course, known for the guy Taven last year, he was at least my defensive player of the year the organization, but 389 average, 421 on base, 889 slugging, a 1.310 OPS. He was hitting the thing all over the yard. A very impressive week for Yordis Valdez, and we know he's still a magician with the glove in his hand.
Oh yeah, for sure. Gotta love to see what he's doing with the bat, though. I think that was the one thing that kind of, maybe some would say held him back at Akron last year, which I could see. I mean, he kind of always floated in that 230 kind of realm with the bat. So gotta love to see what he's doing here. Never really had the power either. Love to see it coming around, especially in 1 week, 2 home runs. I think that's probably more than he had all year in Akron, it seemed like. So again, like you said, Gold Glover just in the field. Bat really hasn't came around. It's really starting to now, and gotta love to see that, and something that Cleveland could really use in the organization coming up with the middle infielders struggling here and there.
Some more names we didn't mention. Chase DeLauder, another good week, 6 of 19, 7 of 22 from Petey Halpin. We'll dive into a conversation surrounding those two later on as well. There's a lot of conversation you can have with these Columbus players here. Rocchio, Kafis, DeLauder, Halpin, and even some of the others there as well. But I mean, this is a week where Columbus just really found their hitting footing. Again, the guys that all had solo home runs didn't have the best weeks, right? Anchia hit below 100. Datris, that was his only hit on the week. Kefis, it was a very unusually slow week for him, and he struck out a ton. 8 strikeouts led the club this week. That is very unusual for CJ Kefis, but Rocchio continues to play well as an everyday player in Columbus, which you don't often see in minor league baseball, but again, that's because he's been with the big league club for so long. Tolentino, Valdez, Rodriguez, list goes on and on. Do have some sad news, though. George Valera is back on the IL. You cannot be surprised, but you can be disappointed. I think I texted you that exact same thing. Not necessarily surprising to see him get back on the IL knowing his history, but it's so disappointing. And it is every time.
Yeah, it's starting to become like Groundhog's Day in a sense. I mean, it
I like
seems
that
like
comparison. That's fun.
every time he comes back, it's like the next week he goes back down. And I pray to God it's not the same thing with DeLauder, but we're already kind of seeing that kind of trend.
Well, DeLauder has stayed very healthy as of late, and he's been hitting well, so won't do that too much.
Keep it like that.
Hey, let's move on over to the pitching staff. I believe it was Vince Velasquez that got the pitcher of the week. Am I right? Or am I right?
Wrong.
Oh, it was Doug
Nikhazy.
Wow. If it was me personally, I'd give it to the double bump man, Vince Velasquez. But since the graphic is up here, let's talk about Doug Nikhazy first. Again, we talked about him not necessarily being the same guy since the Cleveland start, blah, blah, blah. That all got changed last week, and it continued on over to this week. In his start, went 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, only 1 earned, struck out 7 while walking 1. The whip was below 1. The batting average was below 185. It sat at 182 to be exact. Good stuff out of Doug Nikhazy this week. If you were to ask me, I would have given it to Vince Velasquez. Double bump week for him, 9 innings pitched. 5 hits, 5 runs, only 2 of them were earned, so maybe that's where it lied. But 13 strikeouts and 9 innings pitched. Good stuff from Vince Velasquez. Parker Messick really did struggle in his start. Aaron Davenport, hey, really his first solid AAA start there. Ryan Webb did start, but only went 1 inning, so maybe a little concern there from Ryan Webb. But then a lot of the guys in the pen, really a big mixed bag. I mean, Bradley Hanner, 3 1/3. Yeah, you struck out 7, but you allowed 2. Whatever, you'll take it. Parker Mushinski, though, was great. Franco Aleman, he's getting back to doing Franco Aleman things, which is good for him. And then some other up and down performances throughout the pen there as well. But takeaways from Clipper pitching.
Yeah, I think they really bounced back in a big way. I think all these guys kind of came back to what we know they can be. Like you said, Davenport, his first solid start. Nikhazy obviously coming back in a huge way. That's exactly what the big league club needs. And I mean, 6 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, only 1 earned run. You got to love those stats on Doug Nikhazy. So I think pitching just coming back in a big way, that's got to be my biggest takeaway. I mean, that's exactly what the big league club needs. So.
Right. Well, again, not many minor league transactions to talk about, as now we will move on from results into your transaction report. Again, Taven, not too many minor league changes, but
yep.
We do have some rehab assignments to tell you about. Trevor Stephan, another big part to that Cleveland bullpen that's on rehab assignment. He is scheduled to begin this week in the Arizona complex. Juan Brito, same thing, currently scheduled to get down there as well. So good to see Stephan and Brito getting back there. Really, really good stuff to see them getting back. And again, hopefully they can remain healthy, so on and so forth. We do have some unfortunate injury news. However, before we get to the transactions, Andrew Walters and Will Brennan are both set to undergo season-ending surgery. And yep, that's what I was about to talk about. We didn't talk about it before the show, but yeah, for people asking, Brennan's surgery was Tommy John. Now, don't get overly concerned that he's going to be out for the start of next year. I know you will be, Taven, because you really like the guy, one of your favorite players. But again, we just saw David Fry come back from Tommy John, and he had it in the offseason. We've seen Bryce Harper come back from Tommy John really, really fast. So it's a little bit different of a surgery when you're talking about pitchers to position players. The timeline is a hell of a lot faster, but that is still such an unfortunate injury there for Will Brennan. And then for Walters, it was his lat muscle. So you would hope that he is able to be fine and good and ready to go by next season, but his season as of there is done and over. Yep, there's the Will Brennan jersey.
Just got it too, the new one.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, really, really unfortunate for you. And really unfortunate for Cleveland. Again, he really didn't get his fair shot to try him out with the whole right field debacle. So you never really knew what you had in Will Brennan this season. On the more positive side of things, we do have some major league to minor league transactions that will make a lot of Guardians fans happy, Taven, because they have been calling for it forever. So the one I teased a little bit earlier in the show was Johnny Rodriguez. He's getting the call up from AAA Columbus, and Jhonkensy Noel got sent back down.
God.
And I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, look, Jonathan Rodriguez is the AAA king, right? He is really, really good. This now is Jonathan Rodriguez's time. If Johnny Rodriguez can't figure it out this time around, I don't know if it's really going to work. It may in future years, but at least this year, this is Johnny Rodriguez's shot, because I think now at this point, he's out of minor league options. So if they send him back down, then they'd have to DFA him. He did have a hit in his first game up, which is good. He has to show that consistency, and you would love it if you could see the power out of Johnny Rodriguez this time around on a more consistent basis.
Exactly like you said. I mean, we were talking before the podcast. I think this is J-Rod's, kind of last chance, especially with us. I mean, you DFA him, somebody's going to pick him up. He's one of the best AAA players that I know we've ever seen. He won MVP last year. So there's no question about his skill. It's just, can it translate? We've seen that the first 2 times. It really hasn't. First game, not going to read too much into it, but it's a hit, and that's a start. And like you said, the consistency just has to be there. Too. You would love to see the power to translate as well, something Noel hasn't done either of this season. So the move needed to be made. Now, was it the right move, calling Noel or sending Noel down for Jonathan Rodriguez himself? I like the move. I'm not going to lie.
I do too.
I know a lot of people, might have wanted Kayfus or DeLauder. I think those guys, maybe a little bit.
And we'll talk about that later.
For sure. A little bit more time down in Columbus, but gotta love the move. I think this is J-Rod's chance, though, man. I think he really has to just show what he's able to do. And if not, I think it's kind of over for him. But no, there's no doubt that I think that dude has a skill, and I just hope it, really translates and we can see what he does in AAA at the big league level.
Right. And to extend off of your point, you had said this earlier. To me, it is not really his shot to see if the minor league talent can't translate to the major league talent. But you said it perfectly. It is his last shot with us. If we send him back down again, I believe we have to DFA him. I don't think he has
somebody's going to take him.
I don't think, and exactly your point. This is his last shot with us. If he's not the right field solution, eventually you got to make way for a guy like DeLauder to come up into the system eventually, but then you could start Rodriguez in AAA next year and see what happens. But this really might be his last shot with us. If he finds his footing, great. We're going to love it. And he probably will be on the playoff roster because of it, because he is on that 40-man. Conversation we'll have a little bit later. Another one that'll get people pretty excited. It was pretty easy to see who was going to get sent down once this guy came back up, at least as the roster currently stand. But the Lane train is back, and that means that Will Wilson is going to be sent back down to AAA Columbus, where he was a beast. So maybe that adds some more offensive pop to AAA Columbus. But as far as Lane Thomas goes, Taven, the Lane train, I think, has struggled to get it going this year, and the Lane train has not quite left the station yet. Or maybe it has left the station. It hasn't come back to Cleveland because he's been consistently hurt this year. This is his second or third stint on the IL this year. I think if now this is his chance to stay healthy, figure it out, I think you're going to see the production ramp up. Give it a little bit of time before people start to panic. But again, the Lane train, I think, is going to start to get its wheels moving in the right direction now.
Exactly like you said. I mean, I think the biggest part of maybe his impact hasn't really been felt at the major league level. I think it's just because of injuries. I think he just had to get back. Now, when he was rehabbing down in Columbus, dude was unreal. I mean, he played out of his mind. And I know we've seen that at the major league level. At the end of last season and postseason, we've seen what this guy's able to do. No doubt he's been great in the field this year. Hasn't been the best, obviously, due to the injury. But I think if he just stays healthy, he can really get things going. And that's exactly what this Cleveland team needs, is just offensive production. And no discredit to Will Wilson, but he just hasn't been, that guy.
Right.
Vogt really kind of believed in him. We'll get to that, later in the show, but just couldn't really give you that production with the bat. And I think, it's just great to have Lane Thomas back. So
absolutely. I don't think I'm missing anything. Am I?
Dom Nunez, if we want to cover that.
Oh, yeah. So this happened earlier in the week. Austin Hedges got placed on the 7-day IL because of a concussion. Obviously, we know Hedges and his history with concussions, so they're going to be cautious about that. So because Dom is on the 40-man, they end up calling him up there. I know there were a lot of people upset because they wanted to look at Cody Huff, and again, that's a conversation we're going to get into later. But why not try out Dom Nunez? He's the vet. He's been there longer. He's played AAA baseball longer than Cody Huff. So yeah, you absolutely have to give him a shot. And then, as we mentioned earlier, Andrew Walters' season-ending injury, so he'll be on the 60-day, now the long-term IL.
Yep.
Okay, storylines this week. Taven, my storyline has not been written yet, but going into this next week, the storyline has got to be what we're about to talk about. Lynchburg and Carolina, a battle for first place. It's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome. It's the best two teams in the Carolina League. You got to love it. One of the teams has to win the first half, and that's a massive 4-game series this week.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it before the show, but that's exactly my storyline too, which we're both going to dive into. Like you said, Lynchburg, Carolina, whoever comes out on top with that series is obviously, in my opinion, I think going to have a 90% shot to make the playoffs. I mean, I really don't see anything slipping at the end, if a team gets 4 out of 2, but yeah, it's just going to be a huge series, and it's going to be a fun one.
Absolutely. Let me pull up the Carolina Mudcats stats here, but if you want to throw up the standings really fast so people can get some sort of that's what we're talking about.
Nope,
so they
Lake
wrong
County.
Standings.
There we go.
There we go. All right. It is a 1-game separation. Remember what we said last week? If Lynchburg could get that thing to 2 or to 1, you'd feel really, really good about it. But the case and the fact of it is that they got it to 1, which is unbelievable. Again, I think they were 3 games back as of last week, Taven. And we just said, look, if you can get it to 2, make up a game, you have a shot to do something big. Now the shot to do something big is even greater because you have them within 1 game. Taven, you win 4 of 6. It's going to tie you as far as atop the leaderboard, but you are going to have that win. You are going to have that lead because of the tiebreaker.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a big part of, the fact that you just have to come out on top with this series. Even that, I think you just have to, at the bare minimum, I mean, it's obvious you have to split, but you'd love to get that series and just have that game lead over them.
Well, we are going to be previewing the Carolina Mudcats roster for you because, again, we've talked about Lynchburg. We know what they're about. We need to find out what Carolina is about. And, well, Taven, you had kind of previewed it a little bit earlier, but this is a team that loves to hit. They are a hitting team. They really are a hitting team.
Yeah, and to give kind of, comparison, they're kind of like Dayton last year. And that's not a discredit to the pitching staff that Carolina has, but they really like to hit, the ball, and that's kind of their style of play. I mean, am I wrong in saying that, they kind of remind you of Dayton, just looking at the team?
Yeah, they kind of do. Honestly, I didn't really give that comparison much thought, but good on you. Yeah, they absolutely did. So we'll start with the hitting and then we'll move on. So starting out with the catcher position, you have Edgardo Ordonez and Yannick Walther. Both of those guys, they're fine. They aren't necessarily guys that, are going to light things up. They're more there for defense than they are for offense. But that's far from where the talent on this team lies. There is a ton of guys within this infield that you have to worry about. Have to worry about. Eric, let's just start with the big guy, right? Luis Pena, 319 batting average, has a very, very good OPS there as well. It is a 900 OPS for Luis Pena. He's been really, really good for him this year. There are a couple other guys towards the top of the lineup, and Eric Batoni and Filippo Dituri. All of those guys play the infield. They are all absolutely phenomenal. Jesus Made is also a guy to watch out for. He hits 280. And again, has been a very, very big part. Josh Adam Kazuski. I probably had butchered that last name, but in 24 games for the Mudcats this year, he is on the active roster. He's hitting 360, man, 32 of 89 at the plate. So there you go. There's another guy that can slug. And they have a lot of platoon guys. A lot of their infielders can play the outfield as well. They only have 3 true outfielders, but the guy you got to watch out for out there is Braylon Payne, another guy that is a left-handed stick, can get up there and hit it really, really well. And again, there are a couple other guys that I didn't mention here and there, but overall, Taven, as a team, this is a Hillcats roster that can really hit it all over the yard. I'll look at the team stats as compared here in just a little bit. None of those guys are on the 40-man roster, but there are a lot of guys that, within the Milwaukee Brewers single-A affiliate, the Brewers really, really like, and I don't blame them. They right now have 40 team home runs. That sits third in the Carolina League. They have, I think, the second most hits in the Carolina League. That is true. They have the most triples in the Carolina League, as well as the most runs batted in, which it alternatively means they are going to have the most runs scored. They love to steal bases. They have over 100 stolen bases, but we know Lynchburg does as well. In terms of batting average, they have the highest batting average in the Carolina League. They are hitting 250. Their OPS is a 762. The bats are dangerous with this Mudcat team, man.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I think their strength is really that middle infielder room. I mean, you have Luis Pena and Jesus Made that, I mean, those guys are absolutely insane. 319, 280. Those are the guys that you're really gonna have to look out for. And then, like you said, I mean, they got power too. I mean, a team that the first baseman, Eric Benatti, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's got
Tonti,
8.
I think.
Yeah, he's got 8 home runs, and their third baseman, Filippo Turi, he's got 7 home runs. So I mean, the corners of that infield have power, and the inside guys have a ton of average. Right. So the infield, that's kind of where their strength lies. The outfield's not the best. I mean, nobody's hitting over 235 in that outfield. That being right. Braylon Payne, and then they got a 206 and a 156 batting average as well out there. So outfield, not really a lot to worry about. Those guys are very good defensively, though. I mean, you just check their metrics, but right. Again, yep. This Carolina team, their strength is their infield, and that's what they really stick to.
They also got a lot of good strength in pitching as well. As far as pitching goes as a team, this is a team in Carolina that, well, isn't necessarily the biggest strikeout team. They sit around middle of the pack there in that department. But when you talk about team ERA, Carolina's got the second lowest ERA out of any pitching staff within the Carolina League at a 3.78. They really don't allow many home runs. In fact, I think they allow the second fewest home runs. Fourth fewest home runs. Oh, wow. Fourth fewest home runs in the Carolina League. But Lynchburg also has a good pitching staff. We'll talk about keys from Lynchburg here in a little bit. As far as the pitching goes on the other side, I mean, there are a ton of guys that you're going to have to be able to watch out for in their starting rotation. Travis Smith is maybe not necessarily the guy, but he's a really, really good guy. 36 2/3 innings, struck out 26 guys, only 8 walks. The ERA is sub-3. He's only allowed 12 earned runs this year. Really good stuff out of him, but there are a ton of guys you got to watch out for. I mean, Melvin Hernandez is really, really good. That's a guy that has a 2.76. He has started 5 games and has thrown a complete game this year. Melvin Hernandez, 37 strikeouts in 49 innings, only 15 hits, only allowed 2 bombs all season. The whip is a 1.16, looks pretty good there. Another starter, Brian Rivera. He's struggled at times, but he's also been really solid at times for them this year. Wandy Torres is another part of that rotation that again, just can't really seem to figure it out. So starting rotation has been up and down for Carolina this year. But Taven, when you take a look at these bullpen guys, where do I even start? I just so many phenomenal bullpen arms. Bjorn Johnson is one of them. Jesus Flores is another. Jack Seppings is a third. You go to Tanner Gillis, who I believe... no, not on the team right now, so scratch that last name. Miles Langhorn, yeah, he's been good out of the pen this year. Garrett Hodges, yeah, he's still there. He's been good out of the pen this year. I mean, there are just a ton of guys that can come in late game clutch scenarios that the Hillcats trust. You take a look at a lot of these batting averages to opposing hitters, they're very, very low.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I think the ace of this Mudcats team, I would argue, is probably Melvin Hernandez. I mean, he's absolutely insane, and a big reason why that ERA is where it is as a team. I mean, a 2.76 ERA for Melvin Hernandez. That's going to be the guy that they really lean on in this series.
Right.
I don't know where they're at the rotation, but I mean, that's a guy you really don't want to run into twice if you are, Lynchburg.
I'll take a look here in a minute, but there are a lot of guys that, again, we do have to talk about. Again, we talked about who's good, who's not. There are a ton of guys that are on the top 30 prospect list that are with this Carolina team. It's why this team is so good. Taven, a lot of them are position players. Jesus Made, the number one prospect in the organization right now. He's phenomenal. We already talked about Luis Pena. We talked about Eric Batanti. We talked about Braylon Payne. All of those guys are in the top 30. Same with Josh Adamzuki. Again, I probably butchered that name. I apologize for that. We didn't mention this guy's name, though, Bryce Mekage. He's been Bryce Message. He's got a 3.07 ERA. He's been really good out of the pen in 29 in the third innings this year. You also look at Josh Noth, another guy who has been, again, a really, really big piece to this team. I do believe Noth either just got called up or is, again, dealing with some injury stuff. You do have Jose Anderson at the high A level as well, but or at the low A level. But again, he's getting time to figure it out. So again, Taven, like we talked about, pitching, you're going to find some good guys. And again, like we talked about, Melvin Hernandez is one of those. You're not going to find him on the 30-man, not going to find him on any prospect list, but the kid is a stud. And he has pitched really, really well in 5 starts this season. A lot of good bullpen arms, but the strength in this team lies with the offense. 4 bats in this lineup that we could see every single game this series have, are top 10 in the organization in terms of where they sit as a prospect list. Final thoughts on what the Mudcats have done so far this year. I mean, it's a horribly kept secret why they're the best team in the Carolina League. It's because they can hit.
Right. And I think that's, obviously everybody's kind of big takeaway about this team. And I think that's what Lynchburg's going to have to really just, the pitching staff, I think, is going to have to be on fire. I mean, otherwise this Mudcats team is just going to take advantage and they're going to run away with some of these games just with the bats. I think you're going to need big outings out of Doty. He's got to figure it out. Guys like Schlesinger, he can't mess around this week. When he gets in, he has to be, just locked in, ready to go. And I think you'd love to have Jogly Garcia, but if there's one takeaway now, it's, can you find those guys that can step up in a big way and, just really get after things?
I am trying to look here defensively at what, okay. So this year, defensively as a catcher, and there's a reason why you're going with this, because the number one guy you got to try to shut down, probably from a bat standpoint, is Welbin Francisca, but from an overall standpoint, it's absolutely Tommy Hawk. Edgardo Ordonez is 4 of 14 trying to throw out would-be base stealers this year, and if you give me a minute, I will pull up the stats for Mr. Yannick Walther. This year, it doesn't look like he's tried to throw out a batter, which makes sense. He has only played 40 games, or I should say 4 games. Oh, no, sorry. I am looking at the very wrong thing. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong slash line. He's only caught 7 of 45 attempted would-be base stealers. Not great ratios. a big key to the series for me, Taven, piggyback off of this. Welbin Francisco's got to stay consistent, but especially after seeing those catcher numbers, Tommy Hawk can wreak havoc on this Mudcat team on the base paths, and that leaves a ton of guys in some really, really big spots. Welbin Francisco can be in a lot of big spots this series. Nick Mitchell can be in a lot of big spots this series. They're just Ryan Cesarini, Luis Morejo. Those are a lot of guys that can be in some really, really big spots for this team this week, and they have to deliver. They just have to.
Yeah, you mentioned the top half of the lineup. I think that's where, Lynchburg, they've kind of fed on all year, and I think that's where they, have to keep going with. Tommy Hawk, like you mentioned with the catcher, he's got to really get after things, whether that's a base hit or whether that's just a walk. Either way, you just need a guy like that on the base pass this week. And with guys like Nick Mitchell behind him, just hitting 431 and just on absolute fire, I mean, you should be sitting real nice, just offensively this week and really just get after these pitchers.
This, again, Taven, is a lineup that we think, outside of Melquis Hernandez, can probably take advantage of a lot of the weaknesses that are seen in this starting rotation. I think you're going to have to get the jump on Carolina early in games. If you can get the jump early, oh, baby, that is going to, I think, provide some really, really good things here. But Lynchburg has the fewest home runs out of any team in the Carolina League. So, again, they're not going to beat you with power, but they are going to beat you with all of their extra base hits, right? They have 16 triples, which is third in the Carolina League, 85 doubles, which is the top mark in the Carolina League, and they have the most stolen bases by far and away. I think out of any minor league team in the nation, they have 161 stolen bases. Obviously, we know who 53 of those belong to, but Welbin Francisco's stolen 20 plus stolen bases this year, so he is absolutely a very, very deep threat to run. Lynchburg has got to be able to take care of things with the bats and being able to drive home runs when it matters. Again, Tommy Hawk stealing bases, I don't think they're going to be meaningless. I know the term meaningless stolen bases, we threw it around last week. I don't know if there's going to be a meaningless stolen base that Tommy Hawk has this week. I just don't think that that's going to exist. I think anytime he can get in scoring position, put Welbin Francisco, Nick Mitchell, Luis Morejo, whoever in a good spot to come out and deliver, I think, this is a Lynchburg team that sets themselves up well.
Yeah, like you said, I think the biggest thing is just get on. I mean, you said, team not going to beat you with power, but they got to deliver with the base hits when you have runners on. And I think that's going to be what sets them up in position to just have a great series offensively.
As far as walks, Carolina is around middle of the pack in allowing walks this year. Again, they don't allow a ton of home runs, but Lynchburg doesn't hit a lot anyway. So if one does go over the fence, I think it'd be a big shock to both you and I in terms of, Lynchburg being able to hit some home runs. But let's talk about pitching, because to me, and probably to you too, that's the bigger key for Lynchburg this week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just massive, especially considering you don't have Jogly Garcia. Like, that is huge. That is so huge. And honestly, the fact we haven't even heard an update about Jogly Garcia is a little concerning to me. I see a world and a possibility where he does come back mid-series and makes a start, but I wouldn't count on it at all. So we are going to pretend like Jogly Garcia is not pitching at all. Is there a world in which he comes back midweek and has a pretty solid start? I mean, yeah, he's been that guy this year. It's not double bump week for Braylon Doty. In fact, I don't think they know who is going to be pitching for Lynchburg as of right now. I will tell you who is pitching for Carolina, because I do know that they did announce that. I saw it earlier. Okay, Carolina, it is going to be Melvin Hernandez, who is that double bump week for him. So again, that's the guy that we really wanted to watch out for, right? Melvin Hernandez was the guy that, we want to watch. He's thrown a complete game this year. He's been that guy, and it's double bump week for him, which is even a bigger key to this Lynchburg match. You got to beat him once, but you got to be not only once, you got to try to get to him twice. But as far as this pitching staff goes, you need your very best out of Jervis Alfaro. He's shown flashes. he needs to get there. Braylon Doty, you want to talk about a guy that especially has shown flashes. It's him. We need to have a really good outing from him this week. If we get another start out of Rafe Schlesinger, duplicate what he did in that start this past week. That's going to be excellent. Cam Walty got to start. Jacob Zibin got to start. None of them went too far. They were kind of bullpen games for this team, but you're going to need some length out of your starters here. I don't think you can provide a bullpen game and rely on, 6 or 7 guys to pitch at their very best. If it happens and it works, great. You'll absolutely take it. This is a Lynchburg team that has not really walked a ton of guys, which I think is going to be crucial. You get those early outs. Walks are going to haunt, especially against a team that can hit the ball all over the yard like Carolina. Lynchburg cannot afford to give any free passes here. They just can't.
Yeah.
No free passes.
Yep. Like you said, I think another name you got to throw in there is Melquise Hernandez.
Absolutely.
I would say he's probably the ace of this team right now with Joggly out. 5-1 with a 3.14 ERA, 51 innings pitched, 55 strikeouts.
Had a bad start last week.
Yeah, so you need him back to full form, and if you can do that and just get these guys going, and we've seen flashes out of all of them. I mean, Doty struggled, but we've also seen good starts out of him. Schlesinger, the majority of the year, I would say he's, he really hasn't been on 100% like we know he can be, but I mean, we saw Bright a really good start last week. So I think it's just really from an up and down pitching staff, it's what are you going to get this week? And hopefully that's good from at least 4 out of the 5 guys that we see.
Some stuff to put it in context here. Lynchburg has the 3rd fewest walks in the Carolina League. They have hit the 4th fewest batters. They also don't give up many home runs. And again, this is the Carolina team that we saw can hit them. They got 40 of them this year. And actually Lynchburg as a pitching staff, their whip and their batting average to opposing players is lower than what we see out of Carolina, even though Carolina has the lower team ERA. So just some numbers to keep in mind there. Taven, we've previewed it. We've come this far. Again, we've talked about the big keys. Just overall, big players to watch. To me, for Carolina, it's those 4 top 10 prospects, especially the middle infield guys with Jesus Made and Luis Pena. If you can get those 2 guys out, you can get them out consistently. You don't let them hurt you. That doesn't give time for Batanti or Deturi or there was one more name. I don't know why it's slipping my mind. Payne to be able to hurt you and punish you like that. But to me, for Lynchburg, Tommy Hawk, if you can have another big week stealing bases, you're going to come around and get some runs. But this pitching staff, without Joggly Garcia, having Melquise Hernandez step up, having the Braylon Doty step up, having a lot of these other pieces step up for this team, I think is going to be key. Jervis Alfaro is another one right there, and get the best you can out of Schlesinger and Walty and Zibin or whoever you happen to want to start. Pitching has got to be on this week. If they can get outs and they can get outs early, hand it over to the bullpen, they can take over their job. I think it's going to be a really good week for Lynchburg. Again, 4 of 6 maybe isn't necessarily the full-blown expectation. I think the expectation at this point is you get the split, but 4 out of 6, you'd love it. You'd love to get it.
Like you said, I mean, I think my biggest takeaway just going into this game, I think starting pitching. I mean, they have to be on fire. I'm not saying flawless, but they have to give you good, 5-inning starts just around there, and they just really have to be on. There's no doubt in my mind. I think the bullpen will take over. I think they'll be just fine. I think it's just that starting pitching. Another thing I would say is just playing small ball and staying to yourself. I think that all starts with Tommy Hawk, like you said. You just got to get on and just steal bags, and then I think the guys behind him just get solid base hits, just get on base and just move the line. I think Nick Mitchell, he's been an absolute dog when he's in the lineup. Melquise Hernandez, Welvin Francisca, that's the name that's coming to mind.
Right.
Just another guy that he's been on absolute fire. So these guys just have to stay hot. Again, not a power team whatsoever. That's not what you've been. But you just have to play small ball, just get on base, move that line. And I think you do those 2 things with the starting pitching and just play your brand of baseball, you'll be fine. And I think no doubt in my mind you'll get a split. And potentially with Carolina, maybe not playing their best brand of baseball down the stretch. We've seen them slip. Possibly might get 4 out of 6, and that would be beautiful.
Big reason too why I say get outs early is if you look at this split on MILB.com and take a look at what a lot of the starters have done in their first inning of work, it's not great. It's just not great. Braylon Doty has a 6.75 ERA in the first inning this year. Now, Jervis Alfaro is the one exception to this. He's been pretty good. Melquis Hernandez, actually, another exception. He's been pretty good. But Rafe Schlesinger, the first inning he's pitched, especially in starts, 5.73 ERA there. Jacob Zibin, 9 and 6 times in his first inning pitch. There are just not a lot of guys throughout this starting rotation or bullpen that have had a good first inning pitch on a consistent basis. Again, I ran through a couple starters, ran through some of the bullpen guys there as well. Even Jogly Garcia has seen his struggles, even though the ERA is sub 3. He's seen his struggles in the first inning a time or two this year as well. So get outs early. Carolina's the team that loves to beat you first time through the lineup. And I actually am going to look at that split right now because I am very curious to see. And by the way, this is the team that gets clutch hits when it matters. A lot of numbers are really good when the games are late and close. But sorry, I'm trying to find the split I want, and it's not giving it to me. As far as my knowledge goes, I usually like to have stats here to back you up, but doesn't matter. As far as my knowledge goes, this is a team in Carolina that rakes first time through the order. They can put pressure on you very, very early. If they don't do that, they have a hard time being able to generate those runs. They love to feed off of that early momentum. Lynchburg's a team that struggled in the first inning a lot this year. So if those two things change, it's going to lead to some good things from Lynchburg. I expect a split. I want 4.
Yeah, for sure.
Expect a split, but want 4. That is the biggest series of the year so far. And especially if Lynchburg can take 4 of 6, they will be in first place in the division, and they don't have to worry about what they do in the second half because Fredericksburg is not too far behind them and a pretty solid team. So they absolutely could do that as well. Before we dive into guard ball talk, which will be pretty brief, we start from the bottom down and we tell you, what team is playing what. So Columbus this week, they're on the road against Buffalo. You want to throw up their standings. Columbus and Buffalo sit pretty similar as far as standings. Obviously, Buffalo is in the other division, so you don't see their name up here. Again, no chance for Columbus to win that first half. There just is none. It probably actually is going to end up going to Nashville or Indianapolis or Memphis or Toledo if they can make some runs. But again, Taven, Columbus, you start to build that momentum towards the second half. You're going to get some players, again, like Will Wilson and John Kensey Noel, that we've seen what they can do at the AAA level. It's impeccable. Pitching staff might need to pick it up here and there. Can't tell you who the opening day starter is, but they got a 6-game series coming up on the road against Buffalo.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, obviously mathematically eliminated, but at this point, you just got to build on, what you've done. I mean, you take 4 of 6, so you're trending in the right direction. Getting a lot of talent back that you had at the beginning of the year. Will Wilson, guys like that. John Kensey Noel, he's going to be a new addition. Right. So, hopefully you can just kind of ride that wave, take you into the second half and flip that switch like you did last season. Last season, same thing happened. You were one of the worst teams in the International West Division. And then, boom, you make the playoffs. So,
Akron, this is a gotta-have-it week for the Rubber Ducks. You're on the road against Hartford. They sit 30-27 in their division. We flashed this graphic up before. 1.5 games behind Erie. Again, Taven, that half game, especially if Erie struggles, can look like a blessing. As of right now, though, Akron has got a lot of work to do. I think you need a big rebound series this week on the road against Hartford.
Yeah, 1,000%. You cannot mess around. If anything, you might need to take at least 4 or 6 because Erie's going to keep winning. You got to close that gap. And, if Erie takes 4 or 6, you at least have to match it. You don't want to be down 2.5 going into that last week. I've seen what that does to this Akron team. It seems like the past 2-3 years, it's been, kind of the same story where they're sitting a game and a half, 2 games, 2.5 out down the stretch last 2 weeks. So you at least have to keep it at 1.5. Got to at least match what Erie does. If you outplay them by a game, sweet, you're half a game out, and that's exactly what you want. But what you need is to at least just keep that 1.5 games going into that last series.
Absolutely. As far as Lake County goes, pull up their standings graphic. Again, we talked about it last week. It was pretty interesting. Look, they took 4 of 6 from West Michigan, and they made up some ground in the standings. Now you get to face Dayton this week, and then next week you have another cupcake team, right? Dayton, I think one of, if not the worst team in the Midwest League right now. And then again, Lake County next week, they're going to get to go up against South Bend. Actually, South Bend, the worst team in the Midwest League so far. Big next couple of weeks for Lake County. Again, Taven, I think it's a little far-fetched to say that they're going to catch West Michigan and win that first half. But if you build some momentum off of what you did against West Michigan, and now you go do it against the Dragons and the Cubs, things are going to look pretty good entering that second half. But they got Dayton on the road this week.
100%. I mean, I think for Lake County, what you're trying to do.
Home. Sorry, Dayton at home.
Yeah, I think you're just trying to do the same thing as Columbus. I think you're just trying to, build that momentum. Personally, I would like to see them finish second, and that's very doable. You have 10 games left. You're only 4 out of second place Lansing. So I think very doable, especially with the teams that you have coming up. But again, you just got to build on the momentum you got. Obviously, you're out of it now, but just got to look toward that second half.
Yes. And then as far as Lynchburg, we just told you about it. Huge series this week coming up with Carolina. Yep. We will remind you one final time, they are 1 game back of the Carolina Mudcats, and this series is massive. Now, the loser of this series still has a pretty good chance, if a lot of the team remains intact, to go win the second half. As it currently stands, boy, what a big series this is for both of these teams. Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, I personally believe Single A is the affiliate that gets shaken up the most in the second half. So that it's just huge that you win this, because I would say probably 60% of your team's not going to be there by the end of the second half. So what you have now, you really have to capitalize on, and you really have to go on a run. It's going to be one heck of a battle between these two teams. Thankfully, we play each other in the second half down the stretch to end things out. You do have one more series next week, but again, you'd love to take 4 of 6, and if you do, you're a game up on Carolina going to the last game of or the last series of the second half. So
absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit of guard ball. I know you got to get going here shortly, but I don't think it's too far of a drive from where you're going. So guards fans have been reacting to a lot of things lately, you and I included. They've been reacting to a lot of things. Now, we have to preface this conversation by saying some of the prayers, the folding hands together, were answered earlier this week and today. Will Wilson is back down in AAA. The Lane train is back. And then John Kenzie Noel for Johnny Rodriguez. That swap did happen. And it wasn't the swap that people wanted to see, but again, Big Christmas. A lot of people wanted to become Big Columbus, and that's what he's going to hope to do down with Columbus and the Clippers this week, and probably throughout the rest of the first half. But there are a lot of names being floated around out there, Taven, as far as the, Dom Nunez thing with Austin Hedges. Dom Nunez up. A lot of people wanted to see Cody Huff get a look. I thought Dom Nunez was the guy that should have been called up. It was exactly what happened. A lot of guys want to see, Delauder or Kafis get that look in the majors, even though their experience at the AAA level has been very, very limited. And now a lot of people are questioning Stephen Vogt as the manager. And look, there are some decisions he has made in which, I definitely would have made a different decision. And, you can still get into his utilization of bullpen arms and the frequency and blah, blah, blah. As far as what topic would you like to start on? There's so much we can talk about with Cleveland, because now the Brian Rocchio situation gets really interesting. Where do you want to start?
It's really up to you. I mean, maybe if you want to go with
Rocchio. Okay, so let's start with Rocchio, because I think it's the easiest yet most complicated to talk about. So Rocchio in Columbus. I'd have to pull the stats back up. Or maybe you have them in front of you more available than I do. Never mind, I got it. Rocchio in Columbus, 24 games this season. He is 25 of 95. That's a 263 average. He's got 6 home runs and 22 RBIs. That 22 RBIs, by the way, he's been there for, barely a third or maybe a little over that than what most mainstays on this team have been there for, like Milan Tolentino, Petey Halpin, so on and so forth. He is already top 5 in the club in RBIs. In fact, he sits tied for third with Milan Tolentino. So that's how well Brayan Rocchio has been playing down in Columbus. Does have 8 doubles, 18 runs scored, 5 stolen bases, has walk to strikeout ratio, looks pretty good. The OPS is nearing the 900s. So the bat's been spectacular, and that's what a lot of people were concerned about with him up in Cleveland. Taven, it's been the glove. Weirdly, that has been the problem with Brayan Rocchio down there. He, during his time in Columbus, just this past series on Sunday, made his 7th error in the field. What do you chalk that up to?
I really don't. I mean, normally I can kind of say this or that, but like you said, with the bat, it's been good. So I really have no idea what's wrong with the glove with Rocchio down in Columbus. I really don't.
It's something that he has got to get figured out. I feel like, again, Brayan Rocchio is a guy that maybe you can't go as far to say he must be on this postseason roster, but especially with what he did last October, I think you have to put him on the October roster if this is a baseball club that's going to get that far. With what he's doing in Columbus with the bat is very, very promising. And I think, again, we've seen it translate to the major league level in the biggest spot possible. That's October baseball. But the glove has got to be a concern for you right now. It really wasn't that great in Cleveland to begin with, and it's still struggling in Columbus. That probably is the hesitancy on why it's taken so long for Brayan Rocchio to get up. And also, if you want to pull Rocchio up, now you have to have the conversation that we've been having for the better part of the past month, Taven, which is, who do you send down? Angel Martinez's numbers have slipped, but I think he's proven enough to at least stay with that big league club. So I don't think it can be him right now. The 2 guys that you did just send back down, and Noel and Wilson, were the 2 obvious picks. There's no obvious pick anymore. There's just none.
And that's the biggest part of why I think he's still in Columbus is you can't bring him up because, like you said, there's nobody to send down. But another big reason of that is if you bring Rocchio up, you can't send him back down either because he's out of options. Right. Big kind of what we've been saying with Jonathan Rodriguez. I mean, this is Rocchio's kind of last chance. Do I think, if he struggles, he'll be gone quickly? No, but I mean, if he keeps struggling, this year, and obviously we don't want any of this to happen, but maybe he carries his struggles into next year as well and doesn't turn things around, then we kind of start having maybe
you have the middle infield problem again.
Right. So there's just a lot that goes into it. And with the errors, I think they're just being real careful, and you can't risk it. You got to keep them down there.
I think he'll be up sooner rather than later. While I don't really know what the timeline of that is going to look like, he'll probably be back up here before July. And look, there are a ton of Guardians fans out there that are just like, no, he's had his shot. Give this person a look. Some of those other pieces, like Juan Brito, is now just starting his rehab in Arizona. So obviously it's not going to be him. Milan Tolentino has barely seen the AAA level. So no. Yordis Valdez, barely seen the AAA level. No, maybe Christian Cairo, but I don't think he's, going to be able to fill that shortstop spot. And then everyone else you're going to talk about is in the outfield. So if there is a guy you want to bring up to try out in that middle infield spot, it is Brayan Rocchio. And the competition was better for Gabby, because even though Gabriel Arias has still been pretty solid, he was better when Rocchio was there than he's been as of late.
Yeah.
There's a lot to think about with that experiment. The other experiment is, let's talk about what a lot of Guardians fans have been saying. We want Cody Huff to get a shot up there. We want Chase DeLauder to get a shot up there. We want CJ Kayfus to get a shot up there. Surprisingly enough, with DeLauder, not on the 40-man, and neither are the other 2 guys. So the Guardians are going to be very picky about who they bring up. DeLauder, it's a health question. Again, he's only played 11 games with Columbus. You can't bring him up that early. It's like the conversation with Bazana. People want to see Bazana in Cleveland now. I get it. He's an exciting prospect. Same with CJ Kayfus. Same with Chase DeLauder. My personal thing, I think Guardians fans got to cool it and slide off a little bit. Again, Chase DeLauder has barely seen the AAA level. CJ Kafis has barely seen the AAA level. And are they playing really well? Yeah, they're playing really well, especially defensively, which is kind of what you need, as well as some pop with that bat. But that experience, man, just seeing the amount of pitchers and at bats. Look, with all due respect to CJ Kafis and Chase DeLauder, I think once they get up to Cleveland, they're going to be very exciting prospects. DeLauder has got barely 100 AAA at bats, maybe barely 200. DeLauder, or I should say, Kafis has got 126 exactly. That's not enough experience for me to send a guy up there. If you're gonna send, well, let's go ahead and get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just echoes what you've been saying. I think the latter, a biggest thing that plays into that is injuries. You don't, want to. Biggest part. I mean, age wise, I think he's ready, no doubt. And if he would have been healthy from the start, I think he'd be up there probably last month. But it's just not the case. He just hasn't got the AAA at bats. I think he moved up from AA a little sooner than I would have, personally gave him the nod, but he's been doing good in AAA. But I think you just got to keep giving him those at bats. I think 4th of July is a good timeline, like we've been saying for DeLauder. I think that's kind of where you need to start to look for. I think June is just kind of too early. And same thing with Kafis. I mean, he's gotten a little less experience than DeLauder, so I'd probably keep him there too. Kafis obviously would not touch first base at the big league club. It'd just be right field. For both of those guys, if I had to pick one, I'd go with DeLauder. But again, I would just keep those guys down for more experience and give J-Rod some time, a guy who has more experience.
I want to give Guardians Prospective a ton of credit here. And he likes our stuff. Hopefully he watches the show. That would be pretty awesome. If you don't follow him, you need to, because he gives you all the information, even more than we are able to provide you up here. I'll go ahead and admit that right now. And he says, look, quote, I get all the calls for fans for Kafis and DeLauder, but he named one guy that is on the 40-man roster. And after reading it, you don't really think about it, but you kind of have to agree with him. At least I do. Petey Halpin, on the season, he's hitting .292. Again, 19 RBIs, has slugged 5 homers, walk to strikeout ratio could use a little bit of work, but he's got an .834 OPS. Again, the biggest factor is that he is on the 40-man. Yeah. I don't think Petey Halpin is a better prospect than Kafis or Chase DeLauder, but the fact that he's on the 40-man means that this organization believes in him. Maybe not necessarily more than Kafis or DeLauder, but he's been with the organization longer. He's what, 26? No, he's 24, 25.
He's younger. I think he's 23.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's really young. We've had him for a while.
I'll take a gander at that. I know he's been in the organization forever.
Yeah, we had him since he was 18.
You hit it. He's 23. That's a lot younger than I thought he was. Again, feels that way because he's been with the organization forever.
Yeah, he's been with us since he's 18, and I think that's a big part of why they want to give him a shot. I mean, he's on the 40-man, so you're going to have to give this kid a shot, or you're going to have to DFA him, and somebody's going to pick him up. He's a heck of a baseball player. With the unfortunate injury to my boy Will Brennan, I think that obviously gives him a way better shot. At the moment, there's nobody to drop down, though, so it's really going to depend on Jonathan Rodriguez, and if he
all circulates back to that.
If he can keep it going, if he can, I don't think Petey's going to have a shot, but if he slips, I would say Petey and DeLauder kind of, in my opinion, the next guy's up for another shot. Obviously, nobody wants injuries to happen, but if Lane Thomas maybe unfortunately goes down, we might see Halpin there. So a lot goes into it, but I think it all goes back to J-Rod and what he's able to do.
Right.
And I think a big part of it rides on, what he can do in the next 2-3 weeks.
What do you think of this that Guardians Prospective put out? I personally agree with it. Maybe not as much as Guardians Prospective. He was bold enough to tweet it, if you can even call it that. He said that if any of the three, talking about Kafis, DeLauder, and Halpin, were switch hitters, or if they hit from the right side, all of them being lefties, that they would be up by now.
I don't. I think it's strictly age and just spots being available. But that's just my personal take on it.
Yeah. Again, I would agree with you. I think everything that we just talked about circulates back to, where do you put the freaking guy, right? Yeah. Like, who are you going to drop down? And there are a ton of what I guess has lovingly been referred to in the organization as quadruple A players. guys that maybe aren't necessarily, ready for the majors or aren't going to perform up to their level at the majors, but they're a really, really good AAA player, that deserves to have time in the major league. We just talked about three of them right there. Kefis DeLauder needs some more time, but they'll see the majors, if not late this year because of injury, or at very least they could see it next year. Petey Halpin is another one of those guys. Jonathan Rodriguez and John Kenzie Noel, again, we just made the swap for them. Brian Rocchio is one of those right now. And there are probably a ton more on the pitching side that we could throw out. But that's not where this conversation is lying. If you actually look at the pitching numbers, Clase has found his rhythm. Yeah, there are a couple pieces in the bullpen that have struggled, but it's the hardest thing to repeat in baseball is bullpen success. The starters' ERA just continues to get better and better. Bybee is looking more and more like his ace form. Slade Ciccone has had some solid outings. Luis Ortiz has had a lot of solid outings in there as well. Gavin Williams has pitched some really beautiful games as of late too. So the object with this team is to find the best lineup possible. Find the best lineup that will work. And they haven't found that yet. They have not found the lineup. If you take a look at the starting lineup today in the game against Cincinnati, Taven, I think you're getting close to this being the lineup. I think you're getting very close.
Yeah.
Let's read it off for the people before you comment. Stephen Kwan leading off, Lane Thomas in the 2-hole, then Jose Ramirez in the 3. David Fry is DHing. There's no Kyle Manzardo. It doesn't seem like he's going to be facing many lefties anymore. Carlos Santana at first batting 5th. Gabby Arias, shortstop, batting 6th. You do have Rodriguez, who's 1 for 8 since he's been called back up this year. Bo Naylor at the 8-hole, he's hit, a good amount of home runs this year. And then Angel Martinez in right there batting around at the 9-hole, showing a conversation we had, maybe about a month and a half ago, that the 9-hole is becoming pretty valuable. Good place to slot in Angel Martinez. Very close to being the lineup. I think once you get that right field situation figured out and you slot Kyle Manzardo into DH, probably instead of David Fry. Even then, you could go back and forth about that. Carlos Santana is probably going to be gone after this year, and then Manzardo will be that first baseman looking at the future. But as far as this year goes, I mean, Taven, how close to you are you feeling like, okay, this is the lineup?
I think we're pretty close. I would say that, I think the moves are, they're very limited now. I mean, you've tried a lot of these guys up from AAA, see what they got. You're dropping guys down. And I think the lineup part it's really set in stone. Pitchers, I think that can change very easily, but I think the lineup, it's really getting there. So.
Yeah, again, Kwan, Thomas, Ramirez, Santana, Naylor, Martinez. I think you're going to see those guys in the lineup every day down the line. If Arias starts to really struggle, you maybe can swap him and Brian Rocchio, because I do think Arias maybe has one minor league option left, but even if he doesn't, I don't know that teams are going to be flocking to pick up Gabby Arias if we do have to DFA him. I would really like to see Manzardo in this lineup. I get it. You want to get David Fry his at-bats. He's coming back. But Manzardo, I think when you take it swing to swing, dollar to dollar, pound for pound, I think my personal opinion is Manzardo's a better hitter than David Fry.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say, yeah.
And look, again, I get David Fry getting his at-bats. He has a home run already. He's already stolen a base, and it's about the only thing David Fry can do. So while he's on your bench, you might as well utilize him for the one thing at the moment he's good for, because he can't play the field because of his surgery. And again, that sounds like a very negative statement, but it's not. I would like to see Manzardo in here, but again, Manzardo and Santana can't play anywhere but first. David Fry can't play the field because of his injury. And if he could, maybe you try David Fry out in right field to solve the whole debacle, but that's not the way it's working right now. So Fry, Manzardo, Santana are going to see a lot of different DH time. I would expect, again, today it's David Fry at the DH, Santana at first. Maybe tomorrow you'll see Manzardo at first and Santana there, but Again, it is a left-handed pitcher on the hill today for the Reds. It is Wade Miley. Tomorrow, it is another lefty in Abbott. So, again, who knows if Manzardo's even going to see that lineup. And then the series finale, it's Nick Lodolo, another left-handed pitcher. Manzardo's got to get in the lineup, and he's got to face his lefties. I know the numbers are not that great overall in his career, minor league and all, against left-handed pitching. He's gonna see it in the playoffs, and he's one of our best hitters. You got to give him his at-bats and his chances against lefties to hit. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm just gonna wrap with kind of, I think the lineup's kind of there. I think you got to give these guys that you have now in the starting lineup their at-bats, and should be fun going down the stretch. So.
Tons still to talk about with Guardians baseball, even through it all the lineup changes, all the moving up and down. Guardians still in a really good spot. They are out of a wild card position, but they're only a half game out. Taven, some really big series coming up for the big league club. Obviously, you got swept by the Reds in Cincinnati. You want to return the favor here, get the Ohio Cup, or keep the Ohio Cup in Cleveland, because if it's split, it stays where it has been, or maybe it goes to run differential. I'm not sure how that works. And then you take a West Coast trip, 3 against the Mariners, that big series for wild card conversation. 3 against the Giants, that's a big series to see, where you belong in the case of how do you fit against a lot of these National League teams. 3 against the Athletics, they've been struggling as of late, should be at least 2 of 3 there. Then you come back home against the Blue Jays and Cardinals, another big wild card series, and then you finish it out with the Cardinals, a team that's playing good baseball. Again, another sort of measuring stick as to where you sit with the conversation in the National League. I know they're in the American League, but see how you stack up against these National League teams. I think I said it at the tail end of May. The month of June was going to be brutal, and this month of June is going to be brutal.
Yeah, for sure.
I know you have to get going here, but anything else to say on guard ball? We touched on the minor leagues pretty extensively, so
that's all I got.
Hey, where can the people find you and the pod?
At McKelly Media for myself. Any high school sports stuff around the Stark County area. No, we're out of school season, but any other off season updates at Stark Sports Coverage there on Instagram. And where can they find you at, Nate?
At Tailgate Nate 29 everywhere you're on social media. I don't have a TikTok, so don't look it up there. Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever you prefer to call it, and Snapchat. You add me, I'll add you back. That's just how it works. And we can have some conversations about baseball or whatever you want to talk about. You'll get updates on all my YouTube stuff as well. We got 2 videos to record after we get off of here, and then prediction season starts tomorrow. Yes, we go through every team because I'm a college football psychopath. You can find the pod on Twitter or X, again, whatever you prefer to call it, at Prospects, capital OTL. Search us up on YouTube at Prospects of the Land. The number today, Taven.
39.
Hey, better than
improvement.
Last week.
Yep.
Improvement from last week.
We're climbing.
Last week, I think it was 35. So this week we got to 39. Again, we know times are bouncing around and everything, but we really appreciate everybody staying flexible. Taven, what's the schedule look like next week? We can get back to the usual, or you got more summer league for a while?
I'll have to check it out. We might be good though for normal time.
Okay. Hey.
We'll see.
Again, just be flexible with us. We'll be on Monday at some point every week throughout the year. And especially once I get settled in an apartment and whatnot, we definitely will start cranking out some more interviews and stuff. How's that sound?
For sure. Gotta love it.
Taven, you get out of here. You go have fun at basketball. Look at the YouTube channel. If you're a fan of college football, a couple of videos out tonight, including all the big stuff that happened with revenue sharing and the NIL and whatnot over the weekend on Friday night. So
there it is. Well, we appreciate everybody for sticking with us. Back next week, same day, maybe different time, maybe not. We'll keep you all.
We'll see.
We'll keep everybody updated.
Just watch the Twitter.
Have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.